So if you notice gender trends, I'm sorry. A lot of the media examples show women in the more cohesive, warm, the bonding stuff, and men in more of the discipline and the rules and the structure. And so those were some that came to mind easy, and I encourage you to think about other examples, even in your own homes. But media is going to pick our stereotypical portrayals and make more caricatures than real life, and so that's why a lot of those examples come up that way. Okay. Oops. So, next, I just want to tackle this third component, which is communication. And much of this is nicely written in your text. It's the grease that smooths friction, listening and speaking skills, self-disclosure, clarity, staying on topic, respect. All of these are so important. And as Paul Schrodt writes in the book, positive communication skills, including clarity, empathy, effective problem solving, facilitate healthy levels of family cohesion and flexibility. A lack of these will inhibit the family system's ability to change when needed. So when we think about Olson's model, we see that the extremes coincide with problematic relationships and poor satisfaction and health of members, especially children. So when you're really low or really high in either of the flexibility or the cohesion realms, there's a likelihood of trouble. So lower satisfaction in the family, lower life satisfaction in the physical, emotional health of family members is lower. And that's especially true of children who really need more openness, and they need some structure but flexibility in that structure. So extremes can be really damaging to them. A balance is a tricky word because you can't, balance isn't always what's most effective. Balance implies like an equal distribution of things, and I would say more it's about complementing levels. So in the literature, and even if you bop around online, if you forget later and you do a Google search a few years down the road, what was that Olson's model again? Be careful about that balanced language. Really, I think it's just most useful that you strive to be moderately high in both of the flexibility and cohesion realms. And keep in mind the extremes serve a purpose. The extremes, yeah, they can be bad, but especially in times of transition. Your book mentions when there's a death or another very tragic event, that it is very useful to amp up the cohesion, be there, really get into each other's lives, get more intimate, and be more flexible. But you might need to quickly pull back with the structure to give that sense of security of, yes, there is structure in this family. We can depend on that, even though we couldn't depend on the circumstances that led to this tragedy. It gives us a sense of control and relief. So that's true. And then also I mentioned before, as children grow, we tend to ease off on the rigidity as they grow older, depending on what's going on in the family. Your book mentions when children move into adolescence. Also, it might depend on the personalities and the traits of the children and previous behaviors. But there are a lot of reasons why we might shift for a time, and especially if families can talk about that and work on it. You're always working toward more effective ways of interaction, and aware that, wow, we should really be thinking about how we're communicating in this house and how we work together and our roles and how bonded we are. So finally, your book talks about those little teasers, relational dialectics theory and communication privacy management theory. I just want to mention to you that we'll talk more about these in Chapter 3. For you to think and discuss on this chapter, I want you to think about how you would describe your family, particularly with the circumplex model, and what would it take for you to become more cohesive and flexible? Really think about that. How hard would that be? And what do you do when your partner has a different expectation for your family dynamics or your future family dynamics if you're thinking about building a family together? These are really interesting things to think about. You don't have to write about these on any discussion post. You don't have to write a discussion question and answer for me about that topic, but you do have to turn one of those in on either Chapter 1 or Chapter 2. And but I encourage you to discuss with each other, and of course ask me any questions that you might have. And I thank you very much.